When you create a document in Word, chances are you start by typing text, and then as you look at that plain text, you realize that you would really like to do some formatting of that text. And whether it's changing the font itself or perhaps indenting or any number of things that will make that document more readable, the first step in changing the formatting of your document is always to select the text that you want to change. Well, we're going to look at that today because even if you've used Word for a while, there may be keyboard or mouse shortcuts that you're not familiar with that can help you easily and quickly select the text that you want to change. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Digital Innovation Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and today let's look at Word and selecting text. As we look at our example document today, we can see that it is a short document that explains some of the tourist attractions in Independence, Missouri. And we might decide that we want to make some changes to the text, so we need to know how to select that text. Well, let's start here with Missouri, and let's say that we want to select that entire word. Now, one of the ways that we can do that is to take our mouse pointer, which is the capital I looking kind of pointer. People call that the I-beam. And all I need to do is click and drag over each letter individually, or I could click and drag faster and grab a whole sentence or paragraph. But as I click and drag, notice that I get this gray background showing that this is what I have highlighted or selected. And then I could change the color or make it bold. Let's make it bold. And using the I-beam then is a very easy way to select text. If I want to select an entire paragraph, well, I can do that. Again, with that I-beam mouse pointer, I simply click and drag very quickly over a paragraph, and I've selected that whole thing. Now, another thing that I can do, because once in a while, using the I-beam and trying to click and drag and select multiple paragraphs can cause the document to start scrolling very quickly. What I might decide to do instead is use the Shift key in combination with the arrow keys. So I can use Shift right arrow and notice that it selected one character. And as I hold down the Shift and the right arrow and just kind of press the right arrow as I go, then it selects one character at a time if I want to do that. If I hold down the Shift and use the left arrow, knowing that I've just used the right arrow, it's going to erase what I've just done. But if I were to start over, say here, and use the left arrow, it would select the text that I want. That means, though, that if I use the Shift and right arrow and then immediately use Shift left arrow, they are in opposition to each other in what they do. Well, I could also use not only the Shift and right arrow, but I could use the Shift and down arrow. Now, you'll notice that the first time I use Shift down, it actually selects the first whole line, and then as I use the down arrow, it selects more lines of text. Keeping the Shift down and using the up arrow erases the highlighting that I've just done. However, if I come down to another paragraph and use Shift and the up arrow, notice that it just goes up from where I've clicked, and then it selects all of the text a line at a time above where I've clicked. And so again, the up and the down arrows also select text, but they can work in opposition to each other. So just be aware of that kind of interesting quirk with the Shift and the arrows. Here are some fun and very quick shortcuts that you may not realize you can do. So let's say that I want to select one entire word. I can put my mouse right on top of that word and simply double click, and Word selects that one word. Let's try again. Let me come down here, double click, and I select the entire word. Now if I triple click, so that's 3 clicks of your mouse, it selects an entire paragraph, which once in a while your mouse might get away from you, but certainly a triple click is fast and easy and a great way to select an entire paragraph. Now, one thing that happens from time to time is that you may want to select just a sentence. And so we can't really use our arrow keys because they select a line at a time. But to select a sentence, for a word to actually find the period at the end of a sentence and stop there is pretty amazing. Well, let's do an example of that. Let's come down to our second paragraph, and all we need to do is hold down the Control key and click anywhere in that sentence, and look at that. This selected the entire first line and part of the second line. Well, let's see if we can select another sentence. Let's come down a little bit. Control click, and it selects the sentence. Oh, let's try again. One more. Control click, and it selects the sentence. It stops at the period and actually the space after the period as well. And then I could change the font color, the font size, the font itself, whatever I want to do. One of the things that you may want to do from time to time is simply select the whole thing. Now, we could actually just click and drag over this very short document, but let's say that we have a 20-page document. To select the whole thing, we can again hold down the Control key, but we're going to hold down Control and then hold down A for all. Control A selects the entire set of text that we have in the document. As you take your mouse out to the left margin, to the left of where your text is, notice that your mouse turns into an arrow that's pointing up and to the right. When your mouse looks like that, you are in what is called the selection bar. It's kind of an invisible place, but it is the selection bar. So as you look at the tip of that arrow and click, it selects the line across from that arrow. And this is easy enough to do. Just click and it selects text. Now, if I do a double click, it will select a paragraph by using the selection bar. And that again is a great shortcut depending on what you need to do. We've already looked at Shift and the arrow keys, but now let's look at what happens when we use Control plus the arrow keys. So let me hold down Control and use the right arrow, and you can see that I've clicked at the beginning of this first full paragraph. So as I use the right arrow, notice that it takes me to the beginning of each word, which may be exactly what you need to do. Now, if I use Control and left arrow, well, it just takes me to the left, but to the beginning of each word. Now, we can also use, in combination with Control, we can use the Shift key. Now, the Shift key lets you select. So a Microsoft kind of very basic concept is you click on a first thing, you hold down a Shift key, you click on the last thing, and because you have the Shift key down, it selects everything in between. Well, that idea carries over into Word as well. So I can hold down the Control key, and I can hold down the Shift key, and then when I press the right arrow key, it takes me to the end of that word that I've selected, but notice that now I have the gray highlighting showing that that word is selected. Now think how easy that would be to select a word by using Control, Shift, right arrow. Let's use Control, Shift, right arrow to select a word. Now you'll also notice that it selects not only the word, but the space after it as well. Occasionally, what happens is you type a word and you're at the end of it and you say, darn, I wanted to make that bold, for example. Well, you could use Control, Shift, and left arrow to go back over the word to select it and then change its formatting. So it's very easy to correct something that you've done if you catch it immediately by using Control, Shift, and left arrow. So Control, Shift, right arrow, Control, Shift, left arrow help you select a single word. Now we can also, if we use the right and left arrows, let's hold down the Control key, and without the Shift key, let's use the down arrow. Notice that I've clicked to the left of the beginning of this paragraph. Control down arrow takes me to the next paragraph, and Control down arrow takes me to the next paragraph, and then to the last paragraph. Control up arrow will do just the opposite. It will take me up to the beginning of each paragraph as I go up in the document. Using the logic that we used with the right and left arrows, let's see what happens if I use Control, Shift, and down arrow. Look at that. It selected the entire paragraph. Try it one more time. Control, Shift, and then down arrow, and it selects the entire paragraph. If I can use the down arrow, I should also be able to use the up arrow. Now the up arrow is a little bit different. Control, Shift, up arrow, it tends to select the full lines above where I have clicked. So it leaves off the last line of that paragraph. Let me add a space between the two paragraphs. Now let's do Control, Shift, up arrow, and it selects the entire paragraph. However, if I don't add in that extra blank line, Control, Shift, up arrow leaves off that last line of the paragraph. So that's something that you would want to consider using Control, Shift, and up arrow. Let me click at the beginning of our document here, because sometimes you're at the beginning of your document and you say, oh my goodness, I need to get down to the very end of the document. The easiest way to do that is to press Control and End, and it takes you down to the very end. Now, to get back to the beginning of the document, you press Control and Home, and it takes you to the beginning. If we can use Control End and Control Home, then what happens if we use the Shift key in combination with those other key combinations? Well, let's hold down Control, but let's also this time hold down Shift and then press End. And this is another way to select your entire document. So you could use Control A, or you could use Control, Shift, End. And either one gets you to the same place. Well, then if that's possible, I've just kind of clicked in our blank line here that we created. I should also be able to get back to the beginning of my document and select everything from where my cursor is all the way to the beginning. So Control, Shift, and this time let me do Home, and it takes me back up to the beginning, but selects everything in between where I was in the beginning. So some really nice shortcuts there as well. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel.